So folks, welcome to another episode of How Great Shall Be My Joy, a podcast that I've done for a couple of years, and the whole point is to help more members of the church around the world have more frequent, fun, and fulfilling member missionary experiences, because they keep happening to me and a bunch of other people, and I'm just trying to share what's working for me and for others. And I am thrilled, with all caps, to have today Merrill Osmond, Elder Merrill Osmond here, he and his wonderful wife, Mary, have been called to serve in the Washington, D.C. North Mission at the Visitor Center for a year, and we were thrilled to find out that he's been assigned to come to our ward. So about 6 weeks ago, I got to meet him and meet his wonderful wife as they came to our ward, and I'm thrilled to have him here today. He's going to be doing most of the telling of the stories and etc. But I have to tell you, Merrill, having you here is a thrill for me. I think I'm almost as excited about you being here on a mission as you guys are. I have 7 sisters, and I grew up in Orem, Utah, and your posters of you and your brothers and all your success were plastered on my sister's walls for years. So this is great to just be able to sit down and talk to you. For those of you, if you don't know Merrill Osmond, I don't know where you've been, but I have gotten to know him a little bit better here in the last few weeks. I just want to give you in honor of him and his 8 siblings. Is that right?
Right.
7 brothers, 1 sister. We need to just give Marie we just need to just give her a medal for surviving with 8 wonderful brothers growing up as the solo young lady in your home, but that's a separate note. Here are, in honor of his siblings, in honor of the 9 kids, 9 facts about Merrill that you really should know. And I'm just going to do these in random order, and then we'll talk about some other stuff here. He started singing when he was age 4. He started singing with 3 other brothers, and the purpose of that was to raise some money for hearing equipment for his 2 older brothers who are deaf, Merrill and Tom, which I didn't know that was the impetus behind getting started there at the first. He has sung the lead on 27 gold records. He produced and wrote the lyrics for 5 #1 hit records. He was asked by President George H. Bush to be involved and put together the inaugural ball for President Bush in 1989. He grew up in Ogden, Utah. He's been married for 46 years to Mary Carlson, a gem of a lady. He's a father of 6. He has 4 sons, 2 daughters, grandfather of 15. And he loves to fish, golf, photography, painting, and he is a Mickey Mouse paraphernalia collector. 2 last things I'm going to tell you, because you're not watching this podcast to see me, you're watching it to see Merrill. So I'm going to hear 2 more I'm going to give you real quick. He was given in 2017 an honorary doctorate degree of humanities from Dixie State University in St. George, Utah. And he's been knighted twice. Once, I'll just tell you about, the Sovereign Military Order of the Temple at Jerusalem knighted him. And the other one was in Portugal. Now, there's more I can tell you about him, but there's a quick rundown of just how talented this guy is that I'm here with. Merrill, they're dying to see you, not me.
Hello, everyone. I'm the gray-haired bear, as they call me.
We are thrilled to have you here, and the purpose of this podcast, like I said, it's a member missionary podcast. It's been listened to in 38 countries and almost 400 cities, and it's simply there to spread joy. The scripture from the Doctrine and Covenants talks about how great will be your joy if you help bring somebody unto me, right?
Right.
So I've written 3 books, member missionary books, called How Great Shall Be My Joy. This podcast has the same name. And member missionary work is kind of in my blood. So the bottom line of this, and with all of the writing that you've done, and all of the lyrics you've created, and everything that you've done, perhaps the greatest thing, in my opinion, that you've ever written was on your website, under a tab called Beliefs, which you should go to merrillosmond.com and just check out what he has there. But the bulk of that website has to do with his beliefs. Here is a quote from him, and then we'll start talking about some of your experiences, Merrill. Throughout my life, I have constantly studied and prayed that I might be led by the Spirit of God so that I might be an instrument in His plan of happiness in some small, insignificant way. That can't be written more beautifully than it was written. And that could be the subtitle of this podcast, because it's all about that kind of thing. So with that as an introduction and as a background, tell us some of the experiences you've had in your marvelous career where you feel like the Lord has worked with you as an instrument in his hands to make someone else's life better.
Well, thank you, my
Take it away.
friend. Bless your heart. I'm humbled by it all. People don't really know this, but when I was about 15 years old, my family and I were called in by the first presidency of the church. Under Joseph Fielding Smith's direction, our family was called on a lifetime mission. And so there's where it started. And we were just released when President Monson was the prophet.
Oh my gosh.
And so we have our final papers. But in those papers it said, unless you want to keep continuing to do what it is. But I'll never forget that moment, because when we walked into those offices, there were the 12 apostles sitting at the conference center, and Harold B. Lee was the one that was actually conducting the meeting.
Wow.
The brother-in-law stood up, and they had us sit in their chairs, and they stood behind us.
What a thrill.
It was a moment I'll never forget.
That's a great move.
Yeah, and some of the most incredible counsel. Some of the counsel I'll never forget was one that says, whatever decisions you make in your life, always choose those that'll bring you closest to the celestial kingdom. Whether it's the friends that you keep, the business that you get into, or whatever endeavor it might be, always choose those things that'll bring you closer to the celestial kingdom. And then one thing was said to me, again, at a 15, 16-year-old kid, is be careful of making mistakes. So the world's watching you. And it went on. So there's some things that were so sacred I can't mention here, but I'll simply tell you that at that moment in my life, it all shifted. All the advice and counsel from our parents, which was amazing, all came together at that moment, because we then knew that the Lord had called us from a pre-existent state to be united as a family, to do a missionary work that was very different from maybe knocking on the door. But it came through our music and our testimonies and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to even say any more than I can tell you a million experiences, but the profound moment when you're called by the prophet to serve a lifetime mission, that pretty well puts it all in perspective.
I've never heard of a lifetime mission.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that's new to me. And to be called at a time when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
And be careful making a mistake, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, I the rest of my siblings will even say this, that everyone out there, the millions that might have followed our family over the years, we say to them that we're all in this together. We're all a big family. All of us made promises to each other in a pre-existent state that when we all came here to this earth, that we'd bump into each other. And being here at the visitor center is perfect proof of that. I get people coming in all the time from all walks and talks of the earth, and they'll walk in and they'll see the little badge. They'll say, "No, I grew up with you." You know, there was one guy that came in. He was a Harley Davidson guy. He had black leather, his long hair, and he had a beard and stuff. He walked up to me and says, "You're not Osmond, are you?" I said, "I actually am. I'm the lead singer of the guys."
Yeah.
And he went, well, I was more of a Zeppelin fan. And I said, "Well, so am I. I mean, I know those guys really well." He says, "You know them?" I said, "Yeah." The whole concept behind that is when you can bond with somebody, to be on their level.
Sure.
Well, I could tell you story after story. That man stayed in the visitor center for over an hour.
Perfect.
Gave him a Book of Mormon, I testified of the love I have and the eternal consequences of all of our actions and stuff like that. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about what's happening here at the Visitor Center, but it's amazing.
What's great is that when he brings up Led Zeppelin, you jump right on that. You know, I'm a fan too, right? And one of the things that I'm no pro, by the way. I talk about, you know, books I've written or things I've done, but I'm just having so much fun with it, and the experiences keep coming, that if there's anything I can do to help other people have more joy like this, that's my motivation. That's it. And I write the books that I wrote as a testimony, so I've got something permanent that I can point to that says, this is what the Lord did with me. And it worked. And I talk a lot to people about the importance of observing. So many times these member missionary experiences for me start because I saw something. You know, I'm in a Subway shop in Washington, and a guy walks in and he's wearing a KSU Wildcats sweatshirt. Now, unless you've been in Manhattan, Kansas, which one of the cities I serve on my mission, you might not know that that's Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas. And you don't see a lot of those sweatshirts around Washington, D.C. And so I made just the comment, I said, hey, I like your sweatshirt. And he said, yeah, I'm a Kansas State fan. I said, I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Manhattan when I was 19. And that's all I needed. And boy, we started talking about Manhattan. He lives 20 minutes north of Manhattan. And I gave him an Articles of Faith card. I keep some kind of a card with me so I have a little tool that I can give to people when they're some kind of interest or something I can give them that is easy to do, simple to do, and tells them a little bit more about what we have to offer. And so that's just some of the stuff that I've done. But just being observant when they come in the visitor center and you see what you see and you listen to what they say and you see what they're wearing and you answer their questions, that's the key that starts the whole ball rolling, in my opinion.
100% clear. Absolutely. See, here's the thing. Those of you that are out there that are, you know, going through your stuff, when we all go through our stuff, the gospel's true, period. We can go through scriptures and this and that, whatever else, but like you just mentioned, just the fact that you can bond with somebody, look them in the eyes, and bear testimony, as simple as that is, they'll remember, the Spirit will bear witness to them that the gospel is true, and they feel something, they don't know quite what it is. But they'll recall, they'll remember, once they're humble enough to be able to feel the spirit of it, how all of that was true. It'll all come back to them. So the point, what I'm trying to say is, going along with what you said, you'll never know what you will be doing as far as a mission is concerned, just by bonding, by look at somebody and putting your arm around them and give them a little smile or pat them on the back. If you really want to be a missionary, that's what it's all about, right there. Yeah. You don't have to pound scriptures into them. You don't have to do all that. That all can come. But just being there in the moment when somebody is in need will do more to help bring the children back to Father than anything I know of.
See, I've always thought Jesus was really good at, he was good at everything, but he was really good at noticing what somebody needed at the time.
Yep.
And focusing on it. So if he's walking through the old city of Jerusalem and there's somebody there who's blind, he focuses on their sight.
Yep.
Right? Not on their legs, on their sight. If he finds somebody who's lame, he focuses on how can I help him? Let's focus on his legs. And so it's one thing to kind of take an approach and then start talking about it and hopefully find somebody that listens. That's one approach. But in my opinion, a much better approach is to focus on the individual, be observant, and just listen to what they're saying, observe what they're doing, and let the Spirit guide you on what to do next, because the Spirit will guide you in doing that, which is what I loved about your statement on your website, where you've studied and prayed that you might be led by the Spirit of God. That's what it's all about, because it's His work and it's His church. So I love that concept you talked about, being led. Of the thousands of experiences you've had as a concert performer and the unique experience you and your brothers and your sister had growing up and being on a stage, give us one or two examples of how the Lord worked with you in that environment, because it's very different than the rest of us. The rest of us aren't up there on the stage, but how did he work with you and lead you to do some help for some other people in that kind of an environment?
It's so let me share a couple thoughts with you. It's been racing through my mind. My mother was the ultimate missionary. When the moment came when the Queen of England was to meet us, and there was a whole protocol. You never reach out to shake her hand until she wants to shake yours, and you never speak to her unless she wanted to speak to you. So that was the protocol. So after our concert was over, here she comes. She walks right up to our mother, and she says, "Hello." She reaches out with her hand, and my mother reaches and pulls out a Book of Mormon and hands it to her. Now, all the security in the world was going, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah.
But that's my mother. And in that book, she wrote her testimony. And you know, we've met that queen before she passed away at least 2 other times. And every time she came to us, she says, "I have that Book of Mormon still on my library."
Wow.
She was Elvis Presley's second mom. And to have her be that kind of a person and that missionary, that clear vessel, it gave us all the foundation to keep going. There's another little story that I just popped in my mind. Do you remember Prime Minister Begin in Israel?
Yes,
Menachem Begin.
Yeah.
We were over there, and the shows were all big successes and sellouts in Israel, and we were very humbled because of it. But he wanted to meet the Osmonds. And so I hope I don't embarrass somebody here, but I called Russell Ballard, and I said, "Brother Ballard, we have a chance to meet with the Prime Minister. Is there anything we could say in behalf of the church that might be of some interest?" And at that time,
It's a great call to make.
there was a great amount of tension
Yeah.
there at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, "Merrill, don't say anything because of the sensitivity, the church coming in and stuff like that." I said, "Okay, we won't say anything." Anyway, the moment comes, the press were all there. Hundreds of cameras were snapping. The door opens up, and Prime Minister Begin says, "The Mormon Osmonds are here." And we look at like that, and he says, "We need more Mormons in Israel. You guys have beautiful feelings and spirit." And he went on and on and on. And I said, "Oh no." Anyway, I called Elder Ballard after, and I told him what had happened. He says, "What?" You know.
Yeah.
The point of making it,
That's fabulous.
isn't that a cool story?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Because the church is moving throughout the whole world. And sometimes we can be a little bit of a conduit to help when we least expect it.
Yeah.
That was an interesting moment. I'll never
That's a
forget.
great story.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I don't know, firesides. You folks probably did a whole bunch of firesides, didn't you, around the world as you went into a city and did a concert? Was that part of your normal protocol, was to do a fireside of some type for the area?
Interesting, our manager throughout the years was named Ed Leffler, and he was the Beatles agent when he became our manager. And the last thing he wanted us to do was a fireside. He wanted the image to be such that, you know. Anyway, he was the one that helped the Beatles come to England. And it was all about staying away and let that whole concept just build and become, you know, mania.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he says, "No, we're going to do firesides along the way." And I'm so grateful that we did. We went against the tide. We went against the media. They were beating us up along the way. But we're so grateful that we did firesides because we have a number on record, which we don't talk about, that have come into the church because of the firesides.
Beautiful.
Throughout the world.
Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, we've been able to bear our testimonies in a very, very unique way.
When you did a fireside, did you get together as a family and go, "Okay, Alan, Wayne, and Marie, you're going to speak this time," or did you all speak as a general rule at these firesides?
Yeah, we spoke as a family. We never let anybody go without bearing their testimony. Donnie and Marie were obviously the ones that were the popular ones, and we made sure they had plenty of time to speak. But in Europe, it was more the band. It was Alan Wayne, Merrill, Jay, and Donnie,
Right.
and Jimmy joined. In America, it was Donnie and Marie.
Oh.
In Japan, it was Jimmy.
Oh.
He was, so all of our shows and everything we did were
Good for
based
Jimmy.
around
Good for
the
Jimmy.
popularity of whoever it was.
Yeah.
But we were all there together, all for one and one for all.
That's beautiful. A couple other things that I noticed. One of the things that's on your website, merrillosmond.com, and you should really read that website, but particularly his tab where it talks about his beliefs. He lists 18 scriptures on that website that basically talk about the church we have today and connects it to the church that was in the Old and the New Testament. And you made a statement on your website that one of the questions that kind of bugged you, because you probably got it so often, was if to use the terminology at that time, if Mormons were Christians, right? You got that often, apparently, from what you wrote on the website. And I love the fact that you listed all those scriptures. You just want to talk a little bit about that question and kind of how you've handled it over the years, because you've had it 1,000 times, I'm sure.
Well, what's sort of cool about that is I was also knighted as a Knights Templar.
Oh.
And if you're a Knights Templar, you are Christian all the way through it. So it's sort of fun when someone says, well, you're not Christian. Well, I'm a Knights Templar to begin with. Number two.
But doesn't the Pope have to?
Yeah,
Pope has to stamp
you have to
that,
sign off
supposedly,
on it.
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, that's pretty cool. But then to go further than that, and again, my mother was a scriptorian of all people I've ever met. And the scriptures that I mentioned on the website, plus I've got tons more, will prove 100% and beyond that the gospel of Jesus Christ is 100% true. So I can have a debate with anybody you want about biblical scripture, biblical, not just counting what we know to be true as far as the Book of Mormon, that scripturally we have proof that the gospel of Jesus Christ is true. So for me to walk into a meeting with anybody, and I've had the opportunity of baptizing a Baptist preacher, a Jewish rabbi, and others that have come in my way, and I'm saying this humbly because I can simply be able to bear testimony, and hopefully the Spirit will be there, but I have scriptures to back it up. And it makes it fun almost for me to be able to be there in that moment like we've talked about and be able to respond intelligently and hopefully spiritually to the point where somebody can say, well, let me go check this out. And when they do, they come back and say, well, teach me more.
Yeah. God didn't leave us on an island, did he? He gave
No.
us plenty of backup information, plenty of evidence to substantiate what we're doing here. What advice, as a global, I'm still fascinated with this lifetime missionary calling. I've never heard of that concept. I think that's a fabulous thing. What advice would you give to members of the church out there who are not world famous musicians, which is most of us, and don't have the name that's so recognizable? We're just the Joes and the Sallys of the world that love the Lord and want to help him with his kingdom. Any advice just off the top of your head about principles or something that would work well for anybody out there?
Well, we're living in a day now when our testimonies are going to get challenged. And darkness is coming in faster than it's ever come in faster. But light is also coming in faster. Everybody needs to firm up their testimony and do whatever it takes to have that testimony burning within inside you. Read, study, pray daily. Because if you don't, the tempter will come in and try to ruin and destroy every good feeling that you have. So firm up your testimony. Second of all, believe sincerely that you are here for a purpose. Some people might feel disappointed or discouraged about what's happened in their life, or something has occurred that would cause their testimony to flutter around. Know that you have a purpose, or you wouldn't be here. So everybody has a purpose, and so take that moment and say, what God can I do to help build up thy kingdom? Say that in a prayer. Constantly say that over and over. What can I do to help bring Zion back to this earth again? And I guarantee you, if you sincerely say that prayer, be humble about it, you will have miracles. Thoughts will come to you that will just open up your... So have faith, just have faith that you are on course and that you're doing everything you can, despite the weaknesses and problems that you have. Stay on course, pray with all you got, and you can be used as an instrument to help bring Heavenly Father's work to pass.
Well said. Some people might look at your life and the life of your family and say, man, what a bed of roses. I wish I had, sung lead on 27 gold albums, right? But you've had your challenges too, right? And I want to do a quick shout out to your wonderful youngest son, Troy, who passed away at the age of 33 in his sleep. That's only been about 5 years ago. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you just want to tell people? I know Troy was an organist. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything you just want to say? I want to give Troy a little shout out here, just to give him a little attention. Is there anything you want to say about him or anything we should know about him?
Yeah, let me share something with you. I rarely share this, but before Troy was born, and my wife couldn't have any more children. She had placenta previa, so Troy was the last one. And he came to me in a dream right before he was born. He said, Father, I'm going to need your help. That was all he said, and then the dream was over. When Troy was born, he experienced so many trials and tribulations to the point where he was almost a Job in so many ways with his health and depression. And when he passed away, it was one of the saddest moments, obviously, for our family. But he appeared to me again in a dream, and he wanted me to know where he was and how happy he was, and that he appreciated how he was raised, and that his hardships had turned out to become some of his greatest blessings. And again, a lot of people out there that might be hearing this or seeing this might say, well, how could that be? That can't be true. I'm telling you, those who are passed on the other side of the veil are with us every 5 seconds. They're probably taking over the guardian angel slots in our lives. But our son is close. He's gone through his trials and his tests and has graduated. And there's nothing greater than to have a unity amongst our family that says Troy is now gone on and he's now looking down upon us and helping. I could go on with a million stories about that.
Tell him about Troy Harder.
Oh.
Not Try Harder, but Troy Harder. Tell him about that. That's a brilliant idea.
So one of the things that I've been praying for throughout my whole life is to have my personal family united. And there were some things that maybe pulled us away from each other here and there, whatever else. But when Troy passed away, he helped bring us all together as a family. And so one of the little concepts we had was to say Troy Harder. Troy Harder is now what we use whenever we struggle as a family. And once a year on his death, his day died, we always have a celebration amongst our family about what have we done to Troy Harder.
Beautiful.
Isn't that neat?
That's beautiful. That's inspired and neat. They say, I don't know myself, I have a son who's 33. They say that losing a child is the toughest thing in life that you have to go through. Maybe losing a spouse is, I don't know, but losing a child certainly is right up there, and they say that's one of the toughest. One of the things that dawned on me as I was just doing a little bit of research here to do this interview with you is that you and our Father in heaven have something in common that is very unique. You both know what it's like to lose a son at 33, right? That ties you to him, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here. That ties you to him in a way that most of us will never experience that tie. But I congratulate you on the way that you've handled all of this, and you know what he went through, and you know what it's like, and most of us will never get to know that. One other thing I want to comment, just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, your wonderful family, your awesome brother Donnie. Brotherly love has been a theme of yours for decades, and you've sung about it all over the world. At your final concert in Las Vegas, you called him up on stage. This is on YouTube, and you ought to go watch it if you haven't seen this yet. You called him up on stage, gave him a chance to sing a couple of songs with you, And then he kind of chose to step off the side of the stage because this was your moment. It was your last concert in Las Vegas. And he's watching you sing. And you start singing a song. I think it's the last song you're going to sing in your concert. And you got a little choked up. And that brilliant younger brother of yours immediately came off the side of the stage, put his arms around your back, and gave you a bear hug from behind. And that photo that he posted on his Facebook page is one of the great photos that I've ever seen that illustrates brotherly love. How did you feel when he put those arms around you on that stage that night?
Probably one of the most emotional moments I've ever had, because it did show, it went viral around the world, that our brotherhood is eternal in nature. We both wept tears after that was over with, knowing that we all went through the struggles of our mortal life, and that we'll be together for eternity and put our arms around each other. But yeah, I will never forget that moment. It was electrifying. I had tears coming down my eyes, and he did too. The song called "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother."
Yeah.
It's a hit record we had, and I think that whole song is geared towards that whole picture. Yeah, it bonded us. It bonded us as a family. Every one of my siblings have talked about that picture, and I think that will be a statement that will go down for a long years to come.
I think so too. And what was also great, I didn't realize this until last night, is that you had a chance to return the favor. Because I think it was at one of his concerts or something not too long ago. I think he invited you up to come and sing, and you made the comment that this was your chance to kind of reward him for what he did, and you went up behind him and gave him a big bear hug from behind, which I thought was brilliant.
I did, and we've talked about that too ever since. So I think that might be the precedent in all of our lives. When every one of us is getting ready to say our final words, we'll all be there to hug each other. So
I think that's brilliant. All right, so to wrap this up, what I do normally is I have a little piano thing that I do as the introduction to the podcast about have I done any good in the world today.
Right.
I usually play that at the beginning, and then I play it at the end, right? So I have that, and I'll put that in to play at the beginning.
Oh, cool.
But here's what I want to do. And I haven't told him about this, but he can handle anything. This guy's a pro. The song that Donnie and Marie sing at the end of their show. May tomorrow be a...
Yeah.
You probably wrote that for all I know.
Yeah, Alan and I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
This is my chance to do a duet with an Osmond.
Let's do it.
I want to close this podcast out by singing that song. You, of course, are the lead. I'll sing melody. Let's just do it.
Okay, I'll sing the harmony part to it.
All right. Then
Hold on, let me come
I'll
over
sing.
here
Okay.
with you so we both get our
Okay.
our
And
faces.
folks,
in
I'm here to tell you we have not rehearsed this, but you don't need to rehearse it when he's singing.
Do you notice my hair is now turning into
Yeah, you're
like
going to kind of angelic.
Angelic.
Yeah, I like it. That's
Oh,
good.
okay, here we go.
All right. May tomorrow be a perfect day. May you find love and laughter along the way. May God keep you in His tender care till He brings us together again.
Goodbye, everybody. Oh, bless your heart.
Thank you to Merrill Osmond. We love you. We love having you here. Have a great week, everybody.
Goodbye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.